How to make bone broth, bone broth, bone broth. Hey guys, it's Sarah, and today I'm going to be teaching you how I make my bone broth. So I drink a big cup of bone broth every single day. I'm in my fertility era. It's very good for fertility, but it's really just good for any human being. The gelatin in it is just so good for the gut and for the skin. And I have so many friends that don't make bone broth but want to make bone broth, and I think they overthink it a little bit, and I just want to show you today how I make mine. It's so easy, it's so hodgepodge. I want to say I'm not an expert chef yet. In the comments, you're welcome to say how you make your bone broth. But I actually really want to demonstrate how easy it actually is. So I think the most people run into is like the bones, like how do I get the bones? So obviously you can get bones from a butcher, but what I do, I get a rotisserie chicken. You eat the chicken off of it and you can use that. Just throw it into a baggie and throw it in the freezer. What my husband and I like to do is just when we eat our chicken for the week, we get a full chicken. And I'll do another video about how we cook our whole chickens. And we just cut the chicken all up, butcher it, put it in a Tupperware, so we eat that during the week. And with the carcass, again, I put that in a bag into the freezer, so whenever I'm ready to make my bone broth again, it's all ready to go. Also, if you make like chicken wings or thighs with the bone in, every time you finish those, you just throw those in the bag. So I have a smattering of chicken bones here. Obviously you can make bone broth with beef bones as well, but today I'm going to be doing chicken bones. So the thing is with bone broth, you actually can put the skins of like onion and garlic right in. In fact, it actually adds like a really nice color and flavor, like a nutty flavor when you add something like onion skins. So if you're like cooking during the week and you're cutting an onion and you have these like ends and stuff, just put them in a baggie and put them in your freezer. You know, the end of carrots that you cut off, or if you're, shucking the carrots, that's not the right word, shucking, peeling the carrots. You take those scraps and you put them in that baggie and you can dump them into your crock pot. I'm making my broth with a crock pot. There's many different ways. You could do a pressure cooker, you could do it right on the stove. I love the crock pot. I'm literally just cutting the onion in quarters. Same thing with the garlic. I mean, I smash them up. This is what works for me, and I really want to show my friends and the people out there that it's just so easy to make your own bone broth, and it's just so healthy for you. So I just smash it up and I throw it in. Carrots, I mean, you don't even really need to cut them. I don't know. I just cut them once and throw them in. It's not a specific recipe for bone broth. Sometimes I have carrots, sometimes I don't. If I had celery in my refrigerator right now, I would put some celery in there. You don't need celery. Technically, you can make a broth with just the bones. In fact, dogs really love bone broth, but you have to make sure you make just with bones because they can't have garlic or onion or anything like that. But all that to say is that you can make bone broth with just the bones. I love ginger and turmeric in my bone broth. I just think it's so medicinal and so beautiful. I feel like a chef might correct me on this, but I don't bother peeling my ginger. I just kind of I just cut it up so the surface of the ginger is more. I would rather have the turmeric root from the store. I think that's a lot better, but I don't know. I'm just gonna add some ground turmeric. Again, it's hodgepodge. I don't add too much because I don't want it to be bitter. Just a little bit. Sometimes I add a little bit of pepper kernel, not too much because it'll be spicy. Apple cider vinegar, you want some type of acid, a little bit, because it extracts the collagens from the bones. In the past, I've used lemon juice. I prefer lemon juice. Just don't throw the peel in there because that will make it bitter. You can squeeze fresh lemon juice. If you have like a jar of 100% lemon juice, you could pour a little bit of that in. Apple cider vinegar, I don't measure it exactly. I don't know, a dollop. And then I put my bones in. Now, here's the thing with bones. I think I could be making my broth a lot more gelatinous with more bones and things like that, but I just use what I have, and it's still healthy. It's still wonderful. So I have the whole chicken carcass. I have various, from wings and such. I pour them in. What I wish I had here, and we just moved to Florida from Los Angeles For whatever reason, it's really hard to find chicken feet out here. In Los Angeles, they had chicken feet just in Whole Foods in a package, organic chicken feet. Those are amazing for your bone broths. I mean, they have so much gelatin. It's so wonderful. I would throw like 4 of those in there, chicken feet, 4 or 5 even. Also, when you get like a whole uncooked chicken from the grocery store, sometimes it will have the gizzards in it, the neck especially, has a lot of the little bones in it, and that will create a lot of good gelatin. So I would put that in there as well. If I had parsley, if I had celery, that would be going in there. But this is all I got. So this is just gonna be, I put it in I have a pretty big crock pot, but I'm just gonna be filling up the crock pot, and then I'll be turning it on. So we filled up the water. I honestly, me personally, I do want to play around with my water to bone ratio a little bit more. I think I could be making my bone broth a bit more gelatinous, but again, I want to just be so honest with you in my like cooking style right now. It doesn't need to be complicated to make bone broth. You just throw the things in the crock pot and you do it. Just the worst thing that could happen is that it doesn't taste good, or you have to do it again. So if you're already getting like a rotisserie chicken for dinner or something, you might as well just save it and try it out. So I am putting my crock pot on. What I usually do, I put it on high, and then in maybe a few hours or so, I'll see it start to bubble, maybe like 4 hours or something, bubbling. And once I see it start to bubble, I put it on low, and then I leave it for about 24 hours, maybe a little less. But it's okay if it goes 24 hours. That's totally fine. It's a slow cook. I would just make sure to turn it on low after it starts to kind of bubble a little bit. Low, 24 hours. I think it would be fine if you just turned it on low right away, but I like to get it bubbling a bit. And yeah, after 24 hours, I will show you the process of how I strain it, drain it, and freeze it in batches, so to keep it fresh for when I need it. All right, so 24 hours later, my bone broth is done. I will show you what it looks like. So yeah, there's some fat and there's some gelatin in there. Sometimes I'll even leave mine on the counter if I'm busy and it's like the middle of the day. I just turn it off and honestly just let it come down to room temperature. You don't have to, but it's perfectly safe if it's on your counter and it's still warm. So sometimes I just let it cool down if I'm busy and I have other things to do. You don't need to like turn it right off and put it into the jars right away. What you're gonna need to strain, you're definitely gonna need one of these guys. And then there's a few different ways that I've done it in the past. I've done it in these Pyrex glasses because it has the pour spout. But I've kind of found, because I make so much broth, I like to use like a bigger pot first, and then I can pour into the jars or, the Pyrex from there. So with your first go around at this, you might want to have a friend or a roommate or your husband, wife, hold the strainer in place. And then just pour it nice and slowly. But take a look at all those remainders. All those nutrients are now in your broth. Come take a look at this beautiful broth. That swirling, delicious goodness. So I want to talk about the storage of bone broth a little bit. It depends on how much bone broth you use. If you feel like you can use, almost a gallon of bone broth in a week, you can. And I have been known to use that, if not maybe 2 gallons a week. Because I don't just drink it in the morning. I actually I make my rices with it. I make quinoa with it. Like instead of water, liquid, I use bone broth. But anyway, I do like to put a few big jars in the fridge, but I also like to freeze some. So freezing in mason jars, this is a very important note. If you don't get specific freezer mason jars, they will break and explode in your freezer because when something freezes, it expands. So these are freezer mason jars. I'll put a link in the description just so they're easy to find, but anywhere just search freezer safe mason jar. You know it's freezer safe if it's completely straight. If it has a rounded edge to it, that's a no-no. So use these to store your bone broth. So obviously I'm gonna need a lot of these, which I do have a lot of these. My husband calls me the crazy jar lady and the crazy basket lady, but I digress. So I feel comfortable just slowly pouring it right into here. If you need something with like a spout, you can pour it into here and then into there, but you know. So yeah, I would recommend putting it in the sink, but I've been doing this for a bit, so I'm pretty comfortable pouring. And there you have it. I usually like to personally leave these on the counter to come to like room temperature before I put them in the refrigerator. But there you have it. That's my simple way of making bone broth. I think the main summary here is that you can't really do it wrong. For me, it's just about, you know, throwing the bones and the vegetables into the crock pot, adding water, and cooking for 24 hours. I think you should just go for it and not worry about if you're gonna do it right. I know it took me so long to get to the point where I wanted to make bone broth, and then when I finally did, I was like, wow, that's actually so easy. So one thing I forgot to mention is that I personally don't add salt to my bone broth. When I heat it up in the morning, that's when I add a little bit of salt to mine. The main thing to remember is to use cooked bones instead of just like raw bones if you're making a bone broth. That's my easy recipe. Wanted to share that with you guys, just in case if you're just in your head about starting bone broth. I'm not an expert. I know there's people that are stumbling upon this video that have even a better technique of making it. So let me know in the comments like what you do for your bone broth and your method, and if there's any ways that I can improve my bone broth. I'm just here exploring cooking, exploring healthy eating, exploring a healthy life. So with that, if you found this video useful, please give it a like, comment below. Again, my name is Sarah, and it's a pleasure to share my homemade gourmet, not really gourmet, gourmet to me, bone broth. See you guys next time.